All right, so hi Craig. Hopefully this works out okay. I'm going to use paint here to draw, and so it's going to be kind of ugly, choppy drawings, but hopefully you get the idea. My sense from your questions, just from our email exchanges, is that you're just struggling on this idea of an indifference curve. Okay, so let me just sort of back up and talk through what's going on here. Okay, so we're modeling choice, and you have a choice between two goods, right? So this is not price and quantity space. This is two different goods, like good X and good Y. So let me use one of the examples that you're doing here. So this first example here, Khalil likes pizza and then all other goods. Okay, so in this case we can just make one of these axes pizza. Let's make this pizza. And then every dollar that he doesn't spend on pizza, he spends on all other goods. Okay, and looks like kind of funky there. Good. And then the idea here is that we want to model both what he can afford and also what his preferences are over that budget set. Okay, so again with this example here, he's got $200 a week. Okay, so if he has $200 a week, some interesting or helpful information here. He's got $200 a week and pizza costs $1 a slice. So we can construct his budget set by saying, what if he spends all his money on pizza? So if he gets no other goods and allocates his entire budget to pizza, he can get 200 pizzas. Okay? And then there must have been information here about what all other goods go for as well. Right? I guess we're just going to sort of arbitrarily put that at $1. I suspect that's what they do in the text. Okay? So his other choice is to spend his $200 on all other goods and get no pizza, all non-pizza. Right? And these aren't the only options he has. He could spend half of his money on pizza, which would leave him $100 to spend on all other goods. So another option is he could spend half his money on each. And in fact, he can spend anywhere along this line. Right? He could be here, he could be here. Where he ends up depends on his preferences. So we need another way to model, or another sort of line to represent what he likes. Right? It would be perfectly rational for him to choose all pizza. It would be perfectly rational for him to choose no pizza. It would be rational to be anywhere in between. Okay, so sort of our criteria of being a rational consumer don't get us far enough on this. So what we do is we model his preferences using these indifference curves. Okay, and all along an indifference curve, okay, they're going to look something like this. Okay, all along an indifference curve, he could care less if he's here or if he's here. But indifference curves, as you move away from the origin, you're getting more pizza and more of all other goods. So he prefers to be anywhere on this indifference curve than he does to be down here. So we label this utility level 1, utility level 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is try and bring these two things together, bring what he can afford together with what he likes. Okay, so going back to this example here, we learn that he decides that he wants 40 slices of pizza. Okay, it's a lot of pizza, but hey, it's rational. Okay, so we find pizza, 40, and that leaves him with 160 to spend on all other goods. Okay, so here's what he could have bought, and here the red one is what he actually decided to buy. And the way that's going to look with the indifference curves is this is going to be the point that is just tangent to his indifference curves. Okay, because what we're saying there is that this is the point that he can afford, okay, and get him as happy as he possibly can be. So like if you look at this indifference curve here, he can afford a couple of different points along here. He could afford this point, he could afford this point, he could afford this point. All of these are affordable, but he could be happier, right? We can move him out on his indifference mapping here. He could be happier at this indifference curve, this higher one, right? There's only one point on this indifference curve that he can afford, and it's the one right here, 40 pieces of pizza and $160 spent on all other goods. Okay, so hopefully that's helping a little bit. It's a little bit funky drawing in paint here, but let me see if I can clear this out. How do I erase everything? How about new? Don't save. Very good. Okay, so let's go back to how are we going to use this to derive his demand curve. Okay, so we want to get from here, now it says, plot the following consumption bundles on the same and difference budget constraint graph. Okay, so we have a couple of different points here. So we learn, let's see if I can push this over here. Good. Oh, looks like I didn't quite do it. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Hopefully we can see that okay. I think you're probably following along in your book though. Okay, so let's start with that one we just drew. He can get pizza or he can get all other goods. He can afford at a price of $1, 200 pizza, 200 of all other goods, right? He chooses to go with the point where he gets 40 pizzas and 160 all other goods. And then something changes, right? Then it says, what if the price of pizza goes to $1.50? Okay, so at $1.50, he can no longer afford 200. Okay, so what we have to do is take his $200 and divide it by $1.50. So let's see, that means he can probably get, oh, you're going to laugh at me here for pulling out a calculator on this, but I'm trying to go quick for you. You don't want to mess it up. You can get 133 slices of pizza. So if he spends all his money on pizza now, he could get 133. Okay? The price of all other goods has not changed. Okay? So what's going to happen to his budget is it'll rotate like this. I should be using this line tool because it would look a lot nicer. Oh, look at that. Okay, I'm going to go back and make this line pretty too. Oh, I wanted this one orange. Okay, and now I want a new line. This was his old budget constraint. Okay, and at this point, at the orange one here, he now chooses 30 slices. Okay, so he chooses 30. So he has 30 of them at $1.50 a piece. He spends, what's that, $45 on pizza. He had 200 in his budget, so that leaves him 135. Did I do that right? Nope, 155. There we go. Left to spend on all other goods. Okay, so this point here, 30, matches up with spending 155 on all other goods. Okay, and let's do one more together here. So then, what if the price of pizza goes to $2? Okay, so at $2, he can afford, at most, to buy 100 slices of pizza. The price of all other goods has not changed. So let's draw this line from here to here. If this is his budget constraint, it says he chooses 15 slices of pizza. Okay, so at this budget constraint, he chooses 15 pieces of pizza. They cost him $2 a pop. So he spent $30 of pizza. He had 200 total. He's got 170 left. Okay, so he actually ends up here at this consumption bundle. So now what we've done is we've mapped out 3 consumption bundles, 3 different spots that with different prices, what he chooses to buy. And now they want us to draw indifference curves that are consistent with that. Here it gets to be a little art-like, right? So what we want to do is we want to draw indifference curves that come down and are just tangent at these spots that he chooses. Okay, one trick I use is to start there and go out so that we're definitely drawing them tangent. Okay, and in this case he chooses to be right here. Okay, so this, whoops, let me undo that. The reason I didn't like that one is that we don't want it ever to cross. Right? We don't want the indifference curves to cross each other because that's not consistent with our assumption that more is always better. Okay, so these green suckers that I've drawn in here get him to choose this point, and this point, which is consistent with the preferences that he has. So now we want to take that information, okay, and map that into a demand curve. Okay, because fundamentally what's going on here is that we think this indifference and budget mapping is our best attempt as economists to sort of explain what's going on inside of consumers' heads. right? Their demand is a function of both their ability and their willingness to pay, right? How much they can afford and how much they like it. So here we have pizza. Okay, we want to take this same information and map it into, instead of pizza and all other goods space, map it into, oops, there we go, price and quantity space. Okay, so now in the market for pizza, so this is going to be more familiar to you, I think. We are interested in knowing the price of the pizza. This is price now. P used to be pizza. So PP, price of pizza. And then quantity here is the amount of pizza. And we essentially have 3 different points on this person's demand curve. So when the price of pizza was $1, that was our black indifference curve. Okay, so when the price of pizza is $1, we know that he chooses 40. Okay. And when the price of pizza goes to $1.50, that was our orange point. Okay, so when the price of pizza is $1.50, he chooses only 30 slices of pizza. So here's another point on our demand curve. Then lastly, our red one there was if the price of pizza goes as high as $2, he now only chooses 15 pizza. Okay, and what we do when we connect these lines is we refer to this as his, well, maybe it's not going to be a straight line actually. Let me do it. Get rid of this sucker. I don't know where undo is. There it is. Okay. Then when we connect these points, connect them in maroon, this that we're mapping out here, that's supposed to be connecting those points, this is his demand for pizza. So we can see that fundamentally when we do this idea, we're getting into the head of, we're trying to understand consumer behavior here, and we think that when someone's deciding what to buy, that they're thinking about their budget set and also their preferences. And mathematically we map them out like this. So these questions all kind of walk you through that. Hopefully that helps. If it doesn't, feel free to email back or just let me know what else I can do to try and be of assistance. Okay, so I appreciate how hard you've been working on this course. I know that it's a lot to try and teach yourself, and especially to try and teach yourself while you're teaching class full time. And so really do let me know what I can do to make it any easier for you. Sounds like you're going to be working a lot over the Christmas holiday, and I'll try and stay available to help you then.